Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about the early reviews for The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 because the early reviews are now out for the show, well, for the second season. And so I do want to get into exactly what the early reviews are saying here about the second season, which is premiering in just 4 days from now. So super exciting. Later today as well is supposed to be some big announcement happening. So I'm expecting that it's going to be something regarding a season 3 and 4, maybe filming back to back, or there could be some sort of like something else announced anyways later on for The Walking Dead Dead City. And I will say, in terms of the early reviews that are out right now, everyone got to watch the first 6 episodes of 8. So it's really interesting that the last 2 episodes weren't shown to anybody. So that tells me that there has to be pretty big spoilers in those last 2 episodes. And that's why that was held back, because I don't really understand why you wouldn't get that. But we'll talk about that in a different video, because I do really feel like, in terms of what is being set up right now with The Walking Dead, that there's going to be some big announcement happening very, very soon. I don't know if it's going to be happening today because, again, it kind of spoils Dead City Season 2, but it might happen at Comic-Con, and we might just have to wait until the end of Dead City Season 2 to see whether or not, if that post-credit scene that was filmed, or I don't even know if it was a post-credit scene, but it was something that was filmed that was rumored to be Walking Dead related. It was like a one-day filming thing, and yeah, I have no idea what it was about at all, but, if it was Walking Dead related at all, and the rumor was that it was, then I wonder if it is a post-credit scene, and, I really feel like with Gimple talking about some stuff with Rick, earlier this year in terms of, maybe he shows up in a different way kind of thing. I just wonder if we're building to something here. And based off of the early reviews here, it seems like The Walking Dead Dead City does seem to go back to, what The Walking Dead used to do, I would say, in the later seasons, which I think is a very, very good thing here. So before going further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, usually when I do reviews like this or break down the early reviews of the season, I'll pick reviews that are like very bad kind of thing, or reviews that are very good. I'll try to find roughly, how everyone feels about it. So that's what I did here. I picked more negative reviews and then, more positive reviews. And what I will say is I wish I could have included Forbes, because Forbes usually has very negative reviews for The Walking Dead. So, and usually I like to see their opinions just because I know that it is a little bit more negative sometimes. And so, not sometimes, a lot of the time. So, just to see, I guess what they would say overall about the show. And usually I do disagree. And it is because I just think that, I don't know. I just disagree. I'll just say that. But, so let's actually get into some of the reviews here. So, let's start off, I guess, with a Screen Rant here, which I think is probably one of the more negative reviews, kind of. I don't have it in order here, so I picked 3 reviews here. One from Screen Rant, one from comicbook.com, and then one from bamsmackpow.com. So let's get into what they're saying here about season 2. And again, I'll leave a link down below to all the articles here. And I'm only going through just a little bit here, so definitely go and check all the articles out and read what they have to say. But this one excerpt from the article here says, The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 is better than the first season in almost every way. The story this time around is far more interesting, and it's populated with side characters who aren't completely forgettable. It works as both a deep introspection of its 2 leads, and as a tale about how only the people with the weirdest vibes are still around, and that's who you have to make deals with to survive. As a result, the tone can sometimes be all over the place, but I still found myself really engaging with the first 6 episodes. And I've seen that a lot with just all the reviews in general, is that Dead City Season 2 seems to be a lot more, I would say, like, The Walking Dead Season 6 and 7, where we had a lot of groups introduced, and there were a lot of groups, and we actually know a couple of the groups by names, which I probably won't get into here because it's kind of spoilery. I'll just wait to see, I guess, the first episode or 2, or whenever we get into that, to actually get into the groups there. But we actually have a couple of names for the groups, which is really interesting. Very cool names as well. It really reminds me of, old school Walking Dead. And so I do like that. I think that was the one thing that, I've been saying that, for a while for Dead City, was that I want to see more groups in general, right? Where you just sort of have communities and you have certain names and there's leaders and whatnot, right? I really liked that aspect to The Walking Dead where, even going back to season 3, you had Woodbury, you had the prison. And so you just had different places where you were like, all right, so that's, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys kind of thing. And so it's kind of cool that with this season, they're going back to a lot of that. Because The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1 didn't really have that. Again, they talked about the bricks, they talked about New Babylon, we knew there was a group in New York City, but it didn't focus on the groups. And I've seen some more negative reviews out there, saying that they really liked the fact that Dead City Season 1 didn't really focus so much on communities and more focused on like the characters, right? And focused on that aspect to it, which made it a lot more, I guess, relatable. But I really do disagree with that. I think that that's what was missing from Dead City Season 1 was the fact that it just kind of felt like a really like non-story overall. Like it was a story, but it was just a very simple story and there wasn't a lot of communities around. So I like the fact that this season here, we're going to be getting a lot of different groups. The groups are going to be very different and it seems like they're all there for a reason kind of thing. And I'm really interested in seeing where things are going to go by the end of the season, especially going into season 3, because I think that things could really honestly get super exciting. And I'm excited for a community like New Babylon, because I think that New Babylon is going to be a group that everyone does like, though I will say like, I do think they're probably going to be like more the villains, or they're going to be seen like that anyways, but their motivations this season, it is kind of interesting. But let's get into more of the review here. So I'll just get into the very last part here, which is it's just sort of a summary, I guess, of the season here. And I do want to say a lot of the reviews here, and this is the one thing that I will point out, is that I feel like you can't take every review seriously, whether or not it's good or bad, because they haven't seen the full season, right? Like it's just based off of the first 6 episodes of 8 episodes. So if there's a storyline they feel like is not going anywhere or doesn't pay off, maybe it does in those last 2, right? Like there's a reason why they're holding back those last 2 episodes. Like it's going to be very spoilery. I'm sure they don't want that out there. And honestly, it really probably tells me more about the future of The Walking Dead. And that's probably what that's hinting at, whether that's Dwight or Rick Grimes or something else like that. Like I feel like that's why they're holding back a lot of that. But yeah, so like based off of these reviews here, whether or not they're positive or more negative, like just kind of know that it's only based off of like the first 6 episodes of 8. And that's kind of hilarious for The Walking Dead, right? Like if you just look at even the best seasons and you just focus on a certain portion of the season, like it might end up being a very bad season overall, right? Like I look at honestly like season 4, which to me was a really great season, but if you only focus on certain parts of the season, like say the first 12 episodes of 16, then you're missing like, the Grove, you're missing like you're missing a lot of really incredible episodes there. So, and that was really the conclusion of everything, right? So, but yeah, anyways, getting into this very last part here, it's not a perfect run of episodes, as there are times when the story drags or the action gets too predictable, and there are a few narratives and characters who could have been scrapped. The final 2 episodes weren't available for review, so it could go off the rails then, but I doubt it. The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 is set for what should be an exciting conclusion, potentially bringing closure to long, simmering storylines like Maggie and Herschel's strained relationship and Negan's eventual fate. And if not, I'm content to enjoy whatever wild turn of events or strange character gets introduced next. And so, yeah, I would say it's overall a really good review here. It seems like season 2 is better than season 1. I will say that's sort of been the general, I guess, thing that I've seen out there so far, is that Dead City season 2 is better than season 1. But yeah, I think that there's some aspects that I guess that people liked about season 1 that aren't there for season 2 in terms of, more communities, this and that. And the fact that season 2 is just a little bit bigger, I guess, of a season compared to season 1. So I would say that honestly, that's what we wanted with all of this, right? Like I think that was the biggest complaint with Dead City season 2. Like I'm sure critics might view it like that because maybe they haven't really followed The Walking Dead as much, or, they don't care too much. But the one criticism I had about Dead City season 1 was the fact that, like, yes, they introduced a lot of really cool, exciting ideas, but I wanted more from the world and I wanted to see everything connect a lot more. And actually, that is a point that everyone seems to make, is that Dead City season 2 gets very ambitious by making the storylines pretty big. So to me, that's really cool because of like the end game, storyline that they could really get into in the future. I don't know if all of this will really still be around by then, but this could be the setup of some of that, like a lot of the backstory to that, right? Now, let's get into another review here. This one here is from comicbook.com. And again, this review here is a little bit more, I would say, I guess it's leaning more positive for sure. It's more mixed, but it's more positive, I would say. And so now the one thing that I will say is that this review is pretty spoilery because it does actually get into a lot of, I guess, what would probably be happening in episode 1, which is not the end of the world because that's really the setup for the season. But I'll say that it does sound very interesting. And New Babylon's motives here is really, really exciting. What happened to the bricks, I guess, in between season 1 and 2 is really cool. And I'm excited for where this story is going here. But yeah, I'll just say that on that. But let's get into the very last part here, because again, if I talk about everything else, it's a little bit too spoilery for the season. So I don't know if everyone's going to be, that interested in that aspect to it. But Yeah, it says that Dead City is at its best when Cohen and Morgan are unpacking the grief and guilt that has intertwined Maggie and Negan's stories together to the point that the series perks up anytime they're sharing the same space, whether that's as frenemies or foes. Like methane, that kind of electricity can power an entire city, and the rating they give is a 3 out of 5, which would be like a 6 out of 10. So above average, I guess, as a season, and it seems like based off of, again, this is based off of 6 episodes of 8. And a lot of what they're saying here is that Maggie and Negan don't really have a lot of screen time together throughout a lot of these 6 episodes. And so it's not like they don't see each other, you know, like maybe they reunite, or not even reunite. Honestly, I don't even want to say that, but like maybe they'll eventually see each other in the first or second episode, but throughout a lot of the story, they're not actually together. But I guess the last couple of episodes, it's very different. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see where that goes there, but I think that makes sense for where the story is currently at anyways. But again, it seems like, you know, this review overall is kind of positive and just saying that, you know, like the show is great when the characters are together, this and that, and there are some issues as well, which you can tell, I guess, by the rating, but no show is perfect. There's obviously going to be pacing issues, story issues. There will be complaints all the time. That always does happen, but let's get into the last review here, which is from bamsmackpow.com, and so I'll leave a link down below to this article if you do want to check it out. So this review here actually is kind of interesting. So first of all, it does say here that it says that it's a bigger season this time around with a more ambitious storyline, and that means that more is going on. We have a bigger cast of characters with new villains like the Dama, casting a huge shadow over the season, and Herschel and Ginny now being more actively involved in the show too. And I've seen a lot of comments on Herschel as well being a really amazing character this season, and I'm really excited about that because I think that it makes sense that it's time now. You know, he doesn't have to be one of the kid characters on the show. He can actually be a big part of, you know, the main cast now. And I think that, I mean, season 2, we'll have to wait and see where it goes overall, but you do want that to eventually happen for the characters, right? So yeah, just very cool to see. The overall review here says, all in all, Dead City season 2 is pure entertainment with solid drama, plenty of thrills, and some surprising twists and turns that manage to make a show set 2 decades after a zombie apocalypse feel more fresh than expected. The separate arcs for Maggie and Negan might frustrate in the beginning, but it's worth it in the end, as the gripping story at the center of it delivers on most fronts. And so, yeah, the rating here is an A-. And I mean, obviously, the thing is, you're never going to get perfect 10 out of 10s anywhere, honestly. Like, to me, the perfect show might be like an 8 out of 10, or not the perfect show, but a really great show is like 8 out of 10, right? So if there's some ratings that are like 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, it's like, well, maybe there's just some things that the reviewer didn't like overall. Like, honestly, most horror movies that I like are always rated like 5 or 6 out of 10. It's just sort of, I mean, that's horror movies though. Like that's just what it is. You know, they're always given bad reviews. And so overall, a very strong start here for the season. And again, these are reviews based off of the first 6 episodes, and the reviews can go higher or lower, I guess, depending on how the season ends here. And I'm curious as to why AMC held back those 2 episodes. I'll talk about that in a different video because obviously getting into that here would be a lot, but I'll just say that's very interesting. And it seems like the show is pretty good. It seems like for sure it's better than season 1. So that's definitely a positive because I enjoyed season 1, but I know that some people didn't. So I think that this being better than season 1 is really cool. I like the fact that there's going to be a lot more communities here, that the story is getting much bigger, and that, yeah, that everything feels a little bit more ambitious. And I think that that will help The Walking Dead quite a bit because we're trying to build to something here with like the Rick Grimes reunion, with like, you know, maybe Dwight showing up in the show at some point, and like a bigger story going into the next couple of seasons here, right? So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're going to announce later on today. I think it's going to be a season 3 and 4 that they'll film that, and that'll be the final seasons for the show. But I will say that anything in terms of confirming like Rick or Dwight showing up on the show or anything like that is something we're going to have to watch the show to see if there's a post-credit scene. And then also Comic-Con, right? We'll have to wait to see what happens at Comic-Con. So yeah, but I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.